I can't dance. And I should have done that, but I didn't. So I heard once the story, so I'm going to tell you stories. Is that okay? Yes. All right. Okay? Okay. So I heard someone tell the story of the day they invited Jesus to their house. So I'm going to tell you that story for me, okay? I met Jesus at youth camp just like you guys. And I decided one year I was going to take him home with me. So I invited him to come to my house. I prepared before he arrived, and I made him this huge meal. Like, I learned how to cook. I looked at videos online, and I was so proud of myself because I had all these famous chefs and all these recipes. So I had this huge spread, and when he finally got there, I invited him in, and I said, Jesus, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad you came to my house. And I said, please come in and have a seat. I've done all this work, and I've prepared for you. And he sat down, and he just looked at me, and he just smiled. And he was so happy to be with me. But he pulled out of his bag, he had this leather bag, and he pulled something out, and he unrolled it. And in it, he had all these spices. And he said, this is really nice, but I want to prepare something for you. And I'm like, okay. And it's just kind of weird, because I did all that hard work. And so he said, have a seat. So I sat down, and I watched him prepare something for me. And the spices and the scents that he pulled out were so wonderful. I've never smelled anything like that before. And when he laid this plate in front of me, oh, it was just the most heavenly thing I'd ever smelled in my life. And I took a bite of it, and it was so good. It was so better than anything I could have ever prepared for him. And I just sat at the table, and I just enjoyed it so much. And I was so happy and pleased that I could share a meal with him. So I said, Jesus, I'm so glad you're here. Will you come around? Can I show you around my house? And he said, I would love to see the rest of your house. So we went down the hallway, and we were walking by this room, and he said, ooh, I like this room. What is this room? I said, well, this is just my sitting room. And he said, oh, this is really comfortable. Would you mind if we come in? And I said, oh, no, Jesus, come on, let's come in. And he said, oh, I like this chair. This is my favorite chair. Can I sit here? And I said, oh, yes, of course. He said, why don't you sit down next to me? So we sat down, and we just talked. And I just got to know him, and he got to know me. I got to share with him a lot of things that I've been wanting to. And we just had such a wonderful time together. We enjoyed each other's company. And he said, I have enjoyed this so much. I would love to meet you here every day at this time. Oh, Jesus, I would love to. That's a date, it's a plan, we're gonna do it. So we went on touring the house, and I was pretty proud of this because it was my media room, and I took him into my media room, and I had all these books that I had gathered, all this reading material. I had read all my favorite authors. And I had so many magazines and newspapers because I like to keep up on current events. And I had my laptop and my Kindle and all my cell phone chargers and everything in there. And I was so proud to show him my media room. And he walks in, and he looked around, and I was just showing him everything I had. And he asked me, well, where's your Bible? I said, I know it's here somewhere. Let me look. So I had to scatter for it because it was under some magazines or something, like Better Homes and Gardens or something, I don't know. And but I finally found it. And he said he noticed that it didn't look like it had been used very much. I said, but Jesus, there are so many things to keep me busy. There are so many things that I need to keep up on. And he said, but this is how you get to know me a little better. And he said, I have an idea. Do you mind if I remodel a little? I'm like, oh, but Jesus, I've spent so much money in here. And he said, just trust me. I'm like, okay. And so he took out a bunch of the books that I had that were really, I'd read them before, so I didn't really need them anymore. So he brought in all kinds of stuff. He brought in study books and concordances and things to help me understand his word a little bit better. And he took out all the stuff that was unnecessary, all the stuff that he didn't think that I needed. And he gave me the things that would help me get to know him better. And the last thing he brought into this room was a picture, and he had it right in the middle. And it was a self-portrait. And I said, Jesus, I like that picture. And he said, I know, it's a self-portrait. I did it myself. So I was really happy to have that in my library. So I took him, I said, oh, Jesus, there's something else I want you to see. I took him to my workshop. I had a little workshop, and I like to do crafts and hobbies. And I look up all these crafts on Pinterest, you know, and palette crafts. Does anybody ever do anything like with palettes and like paint and stuff? So I had all these palettes in my workshop, and I was working on something, and I showed him some little projects I had made. I was pretty proud of them. It wasn't really level, and it wasn't really looked like the picture on Pinterest, but I was proud because I did it. And he said, oh, that's really nice. And he said, well, do you mind if I take a hand at it? And I said, oh, Jesus, these are tools, and I don't want you to hurt yourself. He said, relax, I'm a carpenter. So I let him have access to my workshop, and he crafted me the most beautiful cross I'd ever seen. And he gave it to me, and he said, now every time you see this that I made, you will think of me. So we went back into the house, and I put it back into the den, his favorite room. So every time I would look at that cross, I would think of him. So the days went on, and one day I was walking down the hall, and I had a laundry basket, and I had some laundry that I had been working on, and I was just going to go put it away, and I walked by the den again, and the light was on, and I looked in there, and Jesus was sitting there. And I was like, oh, Jesus, I didn't realize you were here. And he said, oh, yes, I've been waiting for you. I said, well, it's been a while since I've been in here. He said, yes, I've come every day at the same time that we agreed on. I said, oh, Jesus, I'm so sorry. Life gets so busy, and I just forgot. I just had other things to do. And he said, that's okay. You're here now. Let's talk. So we did. And it was so nice catching up with him again. And we just had such a wonderful time. And so from that day forward, he and I did everything together. We anywhere I went, anything I did, we did it together. And it was so good. Things were going so good. And one day, I got a phone call. And it was my friends, and I hadn't seen them for a long time. And they invited me to come out to dinner. And so I'm like, okay, we'll go out to dinner. And so I was getting ready a little while later, and I went to grab my jacket, and Jesus was at the door, and he was really excited, and he said, where are we going? And I said, oh, I had an invitation to meet my friends. They invited me to dinner. I'll be back. You can wait here. He said, oh, but I really would like to go with you. I said, no, you should probably stay here. I don't think you would feel comfortable around them. And he looked so disappointed when I left out of the door. But he stayed because I asked him to. And so I went out with my friends, and we were sitting there and having a good time. And I just noticed that the things they were saying kind of bothered me. And the jokes they were telling, they weren't really funny. And I just didn't feel very good. So I kind of I made an excuse, and I had to leave. So I went home, and I was just feeling bad. And I walked in the door, and he was there to meet me. And he said, what's the matter? Did you have fun? And I said, no, I didn't. It was just different. They were different. He's like, no, they weren't different. You're different. Those aren't the people that you need to be hanging around anymore. So he taught me so many wonderful things. And so from then on, it was just wonderful. I invited him everywhere I went. I met new friends that knew him too. So we could all go out together. And one day, he smelled something, and there was something wrong. And I asked him, he was just going through the house, and he was looking for something, and he was frantic. And I'm like, Lord, what is it? What's going on? What are you looking for? He said, there's something in here that stinks. And I'm like, Lord, I just cleaned. There's nothing. There's nothing in here. There is something in this house that stinks. And I said, well, let me help you find it. And we were looking everywhere. We were looking under beds and in closets and in cabinets, and we couldn't find it. And he ran up the stairs, and he ran down the hall. And at the end of that hall, there was a closet, and it was locked. And he said, I need to get in there. And I said, Lord, nobody goes in there. Nobody. I have the key, and I won't let anyone in there. He said, if you don't let me in there, I have to leave. And I said, Lord, I just can't. I can't let you in. He said, then I have to go. And he ran down the steps, and he bolted out the door, and he was halfway down the driveway, and I just couldn't stand to see him leave. So I ran after him, and I said, Lord, I can't let you leave. I want you to stay. I want you to live in my house with me. And he said, I must have the key. And he held his hand out, and I reached into my pocket where I always kept that key, and I gave it to him. I let him have it. He ran back in that house, and he ran back up those stairs, and he opened that door, and there was something stinking and rotting and dying, and he threw it out of that house. But he didn't stop there. He went and got a bucket, and it was filled with his blood. And he washed where that stinking, rotting thing had been with his blood. He washed it from the very top to the very bottom. And then he brought in a bucket, and it was the most beautiful gold paint. And he painted it so it glittered and it shined. And he reached into his pocket, and he got a fragrance, and he put it up on the shelf. And that place that was once dying and stinking and rotting now smelled so beautiful, and it shone so bright. So now Jesus lives in every room, every corner of my house, and I am so happy